So we're on. We're going to start this. That was awesome. We got Christine in a mid-lap. Here we are. Homage. We got episode number 9. This is Bueller. He's leading you down the primrose path 9 times. Christine Lyon-Bailey, thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This homage is unique because Christine and I have really only known each other now for, well, I guess we got on the board of it, the advisory board, what, like 9 months ago?
Sure.
8 months ago? Yeah. What at this point? What's another month?
Let's go with 9. 9's the number.
It was 2020. What's another month? No, Christine is someone that's really unique and has been a fantastic part of my network. So Christine and I joke with Christine because I don't know if she actually sleeps. I'm going to read you what she does, what her job titles and all the things that she does. She makes the rest of us on the board look shameful because we don't do enough with our lives.
No.
But in all seriousness, so Christine and I were able to meet probably about, within the last year through the Board of Advisors, the Transformative Leadership Board at Pace University, their Lubin School of Business. And very quickly, we were able to hit it off, it was a lot of fun because in speaking with Christine, as you guys will see today, as we're doing this interview, Christine's got her hands in a lot of stuff. She does a lot of things. She's very involved with regards to, she's a wife and a mom of 2. So that's what she got at home. But then on the side of it, and I want to make sure I get all these, because again, we don't know if you sleep. Oh, your phone.
Sorry.
Okay. Something's bound to go kaboom over here anyway during this time. So she is the Chief Strategy Officer at Ready Learner One, which I'll let her tell a little bit about. Something that DSM has been, we've been exploring opportunities over the last few months since the beginning of 2021. Christine is also an elementary principal and director, correct me if I'm wrong here, Director of Technology and Innovation in the
Coolest title ever.
Yes, in the Morris Plains School District. So that's another part of Christine's world. Then we met through the Board of Advisors over at PACE, through the Transformative Leadership Program, which is very cool. And then on top of that, in her off hours, she's an adjunct professor at Ramapo College. So Christine, for all the working moms out there, before we get started, how do you do it? Tell us how you do it.
I don't sit down and I don't sleep. No, you can do anything. You just gotta make it work. You just gotta jive the schedule and make it happen.
I thought you created a 28-hour day. That's
I do. I actually have like the greatest nanny in the world who allows me to do the things I do. So if it weren't for her, this would never be happening.
With regards to sort of how you got started, tell us a little bit about yourself and why. I know this from speaking with you, but why education and especially teaching children is extremely important to you. How did you get this fire for doing this coming out of school, I guess?
Yeah. So I actually did my undergrad at Ramapo College, ironically. And I went to school to be a teacher, became a middle school teacher, and loved every second of it. I'll never forget my first day teaching because my principal said, "You're either going to love it or you're going to resign by 3 o'clock," because it was middle school. But I loved it and it was amazing. And the kids were fun and it was exciting. And you got to really shape how these kids went on to become, adults. They were in 7th grade. So they were transitioning from child to teenager. On Monday, they were a little kid. And on Tuesday, they were a teenager. And on Thursday, they didn't know what they were anymore. So it was just really fun to kind of guide that process and be part of that. So I was there for 11 years in Montvale, New Jersey, and I loved every second of it. And, every teacher goes and gets a master's degree because that's the only way you can make any money as a teacher. So I got mine in ed leadership. And then I ended up with these amazing opportunities. I became a supervisor of technology in Morris Plains, and that sort of transitioned into the director of technology and innovation. I got involved with stuff at the state level, which was a really great opportunity to sort of expand my reach, and sort of who I am as a person. I met my business partners that way through those that network that I had established. And then 3 years ago, I was blessed to become the principal of this amazing little school, Mountain Way School in Morris Plains. And so I wear that hat too. And it's the greatest job in the world, right? I go outside every morning and I open the car door and I help the 5-year-old get out of her car seat and put her backpack on and send her into the school. And I mean, what better way to start your day than to greet children and smile and ask them how their day was? So it's really just about it's about giving them everything I have to offer them, but it's also what I get from them, and it's just the satisfaction and the love, and it's really beautiful.
Well, it's one of those things, and especially after this school year, I guess, and I guess the end of last school year, whole new profound. I mean, I always had a great deal of respect for teachers. I have friends who or teachers who like just retired and things like that, but how you guys do it. I'm around 3 children and I love my children dearly, but they're 6, 10, and 12, and just at the different levels, like, you know, we go back and forth because Christine is very much part of what she does with her other company with Ready Learner One is a lot to do with like AI and VR, and so she's been helping Olivia with with her Oculus, which will take it offline. She was getting dizzy, so you may need
Oh,
to.
we could fix that.
We were it first went from boundaries of almost knocking over the 70-inch flat screen to now she got dizzy. So you need to have an intercession with her.
We'll fix that.
Yeah, for another day, because I was like, I don't know how to fix that. But it's interesting, the dedication. Like I said, one of the big things that I've seen just in hanging out with you and being able to get to know you over the last 9 months, and really a big part of why there is a lot of respect that I have for you. And when I see it is like, you're doing all these things and they're not easy things to do. Like it takes a lot of energy to do the things that you're doing and to grow a company. And I didn't even mention Christine's an author too. Like, yeah, like more and more and more. And it's helped push me. One of the big reasons why I wanted to have you on today was in just talking with you, every time I kind of hit a wall where you're kind of like, okay. And you're like, well, Christine's doing a lot more than you are. So like, let's go. And but it's a truth. It's a truth. When you see other people, you're not the only person in my life that I'm seeing do this, but it helps entrepreneurs, I think, to be able to get over hurdles when they see other entrepreneurs doing it. And you're like, you think you're at the end of your rope, and magically somewhere you dig down deep and there's more, and so that's where the inspiration's been for me, for you to come on today, because although although we met in 2020 when things were like crazy and the world was upside down and whatever, it's like, dude, you got it in you. And sometimes we as entrepreneurs forget that. With regards to, all right, so you have your day job with the kids and you're doing that all day and you get tremendous amount of joy doing that and being the the director of technology and innovation, which I'm sure is another almost full-time job, given how quickly things move in technology and innovation. Um, how did that sort of move to Ready Learner One? Like, what was the impetus for Ready Learner One?
So it really goes back to 2016 when I went to, I had the privilege of going to Google out in Mountain View, California, and training to become a Google innovator. And it's the most amazing network of educators globally who are all just super innovative. I remember when I got accepted and I'm like, me? They want me? Like, I just didn't see myself as the same caliber. These are people who I have looked at as role models in my life, for years, professionally. So I went to California, I trained, I became part of this network. And then through that network, there's just a lot of support that happens, conversations, different channels for communication. And I met my two of my business partners through that vehicle. So going to different conferences and summits, there would be, events where innovators would get together. And I met Jesse and Micah that way. And then in January of 2019, Micah was writing a book about using virtual reality in schools. And he knew that I'm a huge advocate of using VR in schools. I push things out on social media all the time about it. So he reached out to me and he's like, hey, it was a DM on Twitter. We weren't like, he didn't even have my phone number. And he's like, hey, I'm writing a book about VR in schools. Do you want to contribute a story? And I was like, huh. I was like, I'm writing a book about VR in schools. Do you want to contribute a story? So it was like that. Well, 1 + 1 = 2, right? So let's combine forces and make this happen. So Jesse and Mike were writing the book, and I jumped in with them, and we combined all the content we had, and we published Reality Bites, which is about using virtual reality and augmented reality in schools. And then what happened was the company was just born out of that. People were like, how do we do this? Can you come train us? Can you come to our school and teach us how to use VR? What do we buy? How do we build it into curriculum? How do we make it meaningful? And so we realized there's this like untapped market for professional development around emergent technology. So it made sense to start our company. It's funny because the book was originally supposed to be called Ready Learner One. And then we used that name for the company and we renamed the book to Reality Bites, which is far more appropriate. And so the company was born. And then we brought our other partner, Craig, on because all three of us were educators. We had no idea how to run a business, right? We're like, oh, we need a bank account. So we brought Craig on as our chief business officer, and he's been so great for us. And then it just kind of took off from there, and we started writing more books. And now we're working with school districts all over the country, and we have international partners that we work with, and it's really grown into this sort of movement toward empowering schools to use emergent technology and all sorts of technology and even non-technology things like social and emotional learning, and just training educators on best practices across the board so that they can meet the needs of kids.
Do you find, I'm always curious about this because there's usually pushback when it comes to businesses, especially like older businesses making change. Do you find that in school systems as well?
Oh my gosh, schools are even worse than business. Yes, there is a reason why schools still look the same as they did in the early 1900s, right? It's such a mindset that you have to shift. It's a cultural change, and we've done it in my district. I'm 100% convinced that we have. You can see it in the way that the classrooms operate, but so many schools are literally stuck in rows, right? They don't have that. Um, they don't have that safe feeling to take the risk that you need to take to be innovative for kids. And so that's part of what we try to do is we try to empower that risk taking. And out of failure comes more success because you have to fail to be able to be reflective to then succeed. But schools are so afraid of that.
Therein lies, it's funny that you say that because therein lies the entrepreneurial, that's where like the entrepreneurial world marries to something that's kind of archaic in nature, if you will, what you're talking about with the school system. So having somebody like yourself, again, a big reason, like there's a reason. One of the things that I absolutely love about Christine is the humbleness that you have. You're like, why'd they pick me for the board? And I'm sitting there going, why'd they pick me for the board? Like at least you're in education. Like,
But that was when she called me, I'm like, I work in public school, right? Like this is the school of business. I work in K-12 education. It blew my
she
mind.
called me and I'm like, where did you find me? Where, like, what are you talking about? Or is this, I thought it was like a friend of mine pranking me. I was like, are you kidding me right now?
It's a
But like
new
that
confirmation.
entrepreneurial, that's what I love, that you've taken something that is very standardized. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's a better word for it.
it's
It's like,
systemic. Yeah.
yeah, like all schools ran this way, and it was like, oh my gosh, we have these old crusty dudes who like were running it, and like folks like yourself and others that are like coming up, and it's part of the reason why that it's not perfect, but like kids in America are beginning to take on these new challenges with new technology, and it's pretty cool to see. Like my daughter, when she wanted the Oculus, I can't lie, like I kind of wanted to play the Jedi game and stuff, but like I didn't really have an understanding, and I don't, but like having someone like yourself to be able to say, all right, like I even have the game here. She wrote me somewhere on my phone about the game that made her dizzy, so I'm going to send that to you afterward.
Oh,
It
tell
was like
me. Yeah.
it was like some volleyball game or something. I'm like, why are you playing volleyball? You can use like lightsabers to like like
Beat Saber.
like it's awesome. Um, but one of the things that also is extremely impressive, and again, Christine wrote me some notes here that I want to make sure you hit it, because Ready Learner One to me, and the principle of it. So what's even funnier is that Christine and our COO Zinka live like around the corner from each other. They're literally like neighbors, never knew each other before. And we're trying to figure out a way in the marketing world. So it's not just about education, but like in the marketing world, to be able to connect the dots, to take to a Ramapo college, or to take to even other clients that we've spoken about in VR, and like put that in front of them to say, guys, like your print ad or your digital marketing, all the things we're good at, we can still do, but there's another layer to it. What are you experiencing? What are you experiencing with a Ready Learner One outside of the educational world?
Yeah, so there's again, it's kind of this like untapped sort of like existence right now, right? So there's so many things you can do with emergent technology. So at the core, Ready Learner One is a learning company, right? So whether you're talking about K-12 education or you're talking about corporate, when you look at corporate training, for example, we have clients that, you know, we can talk to and they say, all right, like for example, a cement truck driving company, a cement truck driving school company, a lot of words.
Words.
How do you teach a student driver of a cement truck what to do if your cement truck tips over on the highway? Are you going to tip a cement truck over on the highway to teach them? No, you can't do that, right? That's not a replicable training experience. But you can do that in virtual reality, right? So you can mimic all of these learning experiences, whether you're talking about a student driver of a cement truck or a surgeon in an operating room or a cashier at Wendy's, right? It could be any job in the world. How do you teach skill sets that you can't necessarily replicate in an actual in-person training scenario? So one of the things that we do is we have a team of instructional designers that take those needed learning experiences, design the learning in virtual reality, and then we have a development team that develops it and then rolls it out to the customer. So that's one example of how you can use the virtual reality. But then if you want to talk about how to use augmented reality, which is a lot more accessible, right? Because you don't need a headset, you don't need this whole big fancy setup. All you really need is a phone or a tablet. You can use augmented reality to enhance anything from advertising to, you know, just anything, a piece of information that you're trying to convey to somebody, a tour of somewhere, and having that opportunity to kind of enhance the reality that you're in so that you augment the reality that you're in. So we do a lot of that as well with corporate clients. So there's really so many things that you could do on the business side of things. And Ready Learner One has two very distinct sides to it. We have a business corporate side that works with corporate clients, and then we have our education side, which is really what I head up along with my partner, Jesse, and we take care of all the K-12 and higher ed stuff.
Wow. One of the big things that I wanted to talk about, because Christine wrote it to me, was this change maker conference, and explain it how the worlds of sort of education and the art form of what you're doing, like how are your worlds colliding in this change maker conference, like this virtual conference, because it's very important to where things are going. And I want people to know about it, for all 26 people that see this podcast. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Hopefully there's 126 people, but it's really important because all of these worlds now are kind of crashing together. And so tell us about this change maker and like how the importance of it for the folks
Yeah,
in the world.
so Changemaker is like my little baby. It's like my third child. My husband's my third child. It's like my fourth child. I have a very you can edit that out right now. So
Kathleen, you got that?
I have
I'm not editing anything out.
so I have it's fine. I'll own it. It's all good. I said it.
Oh, great.
So I have a very good friend of mine who actually happens to be the assistant dean at Ramapo in the education School of Education. And so he owns a professional development company that's been in business for over 20 years. And so everything was on-site PD, right? So you go to a conference center or a school and it's in-person delivery and, traditional workshop model. And then the pandemic happened, and he's like, what am I going to do? I can't go into schools when schools aren't even open. So he reached out to me. He knew that my company was doing virtual professional development. So how do we bring together our two worlds and really offer the best of both to school districts as teachers continue to need to learn professionally, but we don't have accessibility to those teachers. So out of that partnership was born this concept of Changemaker. And Changemaker is a company that's owned by Ready Learner One and his company. And what Changemaker does is we've built a platform where we train educators, both K-12 and higher ed, and we actually are launching a corporate platform too, which is exciting. And we deliver professional development just like this, remote, right? And then it's all recorded, it's live interaction, and then anybody who attends has the ability to access it in perpetuity after the fact. So the hardest thing when you learn something is applying it 4 or 5 weeks down the road when you need to go back and revisit what you learned. And so now it's always accessible and always available to people. So it kind of changes the model. So Changemaker, the organization that we are when we come together, started a conference last year in July. So we wanted to give back to the education community. It was during the pandemic. So how do we do that? So among us, we have a large network of educators that are very well known and very well respected in all different avenues of education. So we hosted this first annual free conference last year. It was all delivered like this live. We had audiences that were interacting with the presenters, and we had over 2,000 people join the conference, which was amazing because we threw it together 3 weeks beforehand, and we just advertised on Twitter and Facebook, and that was it. And it's painful to say that to you. It's how we do our advertising.
Oh, that's crazy though. You threw it all together.
Kind of is.
Next time you need a strategy. No, I'm just kidding. You guys
I know who to call.
No,
I got a guy.
but that's crazy though, to think about like that the world has changed. I guess my next question is like, is this where the world is going?
It's totally where the world is going, right? It's 24/7 accessibility. That's what it is, right? So I'm an educator. I'm sitting on my couch. It's 11:30 at night. I'm watching, Seinfeld reruns, and I'm scrolling Facebook, and oh, look, the Changemaker conference is in 2 weeks. It's free. And so-and-so is the keynote. That's amazing. Normally I would pay a ton of money to go see that guy speak. So I'm going to register for this free conference. And that's ultimately how we attracted an audience of over 2,000 people. So our second annual, so we decided we have to do this every year. So our second annual conference is July 14th. Registration just opened, and we are focusing on celebrating teachers this year. And after everything everyone's been through this entire year, their compassion and their innovation during this, modified pandemic version of education. And so we're highlighting the teachers of the year from all the different states across the country, and recognizing them and having them share their stories and, just their practices. And we're hoping to, maybe get 4,000 people join the conference. Who knows? But it's not really about the numbers. It's about the network and building that community among educators, because educators need each other. And we're trying to build a culture of sharing and being part of a community.
One of the things that we're struggling with, I guess, as not DSM, but like as a business community, like what's the world going to go back to? Like, what's this new model? And, are we going to be in the office all the time? Are we going to try to, figure out a way to split the office up? And going back on all these things, like where your worlds collide, like where is education going? Like what do you think it's going to be? I mean, this will all hopefully be over and will quasi normal, hopefully by the fall. Where do you think it's going to be?
God, I wish I knew the answer to that one. It's funny you say that, because I was of the same mindset, right? So this will all be over by the fall. And then I was in a county tech director meeting this morning with 60 other tech directors, and we were talking about in the fall, and nobody's going to be live streaming anymore, and there won't be virtual options. And one person whom I'm very good friends with and I have a ton of respect for said, well, actually, we're planning for nothing to change. And I'm like, what? And he's like, well, with all the travel over the summer, like we really don't know, right? We don't know what the fall is going to look like. Are there going to be new strains of the virus? Are we going to, this, that, and every other thing? So I think it's really a matter of preparing for the unknown, right? And so I can tell you as an elementary school principal, it's a nightmare, because are we going to be in full day, half day, lunch, no lunch? Do they need devices? Do devices go home? Do they stay in school? Do I need to, every one of my teachers live streams right now. It's a lot of pressure for my teachers, right? They're trying to do it all, be the teacher for the kid at home, be the teacher for the kid in the class, prep the materials, answer the parents questions on the spot. So I think it's really a matter of building everyone up and making them feel supported and build capacity for resilience and for adaptability. And I think that's the best way we can prep for the fall, because I really don't think we know what schools are going to look like. We're planning to be open. Morris Plains will have their doors open full day. But who knows what could happen, right? August 31st, that could change. So
Right.
we just need to be prepared.
Wow.
Kind of stinks.
It's like I said, like I already had a great deal of respect for teachers, both personally and professionally, and the you never think of what goes into it. I mean, for my wife and I, like I said, having full-time jobs, and our two older ones, they're easier to, like, they can go up in their rooms, they do their thing. But like, you'll sit here with Tessa, our 6-year-old, and you'll be like, all right, go on your Google Meet, don't touch this button. 3 seconds later, I can't see the screen. I'm like, what button did you push? I pushed that button. I told you not to push that button, but I really wanted to push that button. You told me not to push that button. That's why I pushed the button. Like, so it was like, then it was like reverse psychology. Oh, like, we got 10 minutes out of it. Why? You didn't tell me not to push the button, so I didn't push it until now. It's like what are you doing? Like, just don't touch the button. But it's amazing. Thank you for coming on today, for your insights, and Godspeed, because I honestly, I don't know how you do it. You wear a lot of hats. You do a lot of things really, really well. From an entrepreneurial standpoint, my homage to you is that there's been a few times in the last few months where you're like, what am I doing? Like, what are you doing? And you're like, well, Christine's doing this, that, and that. So like, yeah, like, let's go, dude. Put your big boy pants on and let's go. So I appreciate that very much. Your dedication to your company and to the kids is immense. And for that, I'm sure all the parents down there, respect the heck out of you, but thank you for what you do. And this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. So go ahead. You have the last minute of time. You can say whatever you want.
I got the last word? My God.
You get the last word. You get the last words.
I love it. So honestly, I have my moments too, right? I'm not, I look like I got it all together on the outside, but it's really hard. And you have been a huge part of, sort of, over the last couple months that we've known each other. I've reached out to you when I've been super frustrated, because you run a business and you know what it's like. And you've been a huge pillar of strength for me as well. And so it's really about finding the people you can rely upon and tapping into them as your support system. And so, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge how much you've played a role in my strength over the last couple months, and how much I appreciate that.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate appreciating.
We'll be appreciative.
Yeah. So thank you. So we're going to take it offline now, because I got to ask you about Olivia not knocking down TVs and getting dizzy.
Solve that dizzy problem.
Yeah, on the Occulus. But Christine, thank you very much. My homage to you is heartfelt. Keep doing all the great work that you're doing, and hopefully we'll be able to do this. This is episode 9. Hopefully we'll have you back at like episode like 99. There
you go.
Yeah, we'll still be doing this all the way down like years from now. So keep
going. I love that.
Keep going. Keep doing all the great work. And thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Aaron.